I have done study after study after study, almost 20 years in my career in this business. I have noticed that when you are working with a realtor, you will actually net more money than actually you can sell it yourself. And here's the reason why. One, when you use a realtor, they establish the right price for you right off the bat versus you trying to figure out what the price is. Two, when you use a realtor, they are professional at marketing property. That's their job. That's been my job for years. That's what I've been trained for. We have multiple avenue of marketing versus you go by owner, you might have a for sale sign on the street for open houses and maybe run some ads in the newspaper. The third thing is that as an agent myself and my own office, like John L. Scott, we have steady streams of prospect always flowing through, would also help us sell the home faster for more money. Four, as an agent for me, when I list the seller's property, when people or an agent are showing the property, I can actually call the agent, get their feedback. They tell me the truth on what's wrong with the house and what the house needs to be improved to actually make the house more sellable. And then I adjust that with the seller so they can get their home sold much quicker. And the last and fifth thing is, after the buyer and seller sign the contract, usually that's just the beginning. Now, as a listing agent, I represent the seller. I got to coordinate with the buyer agent on inspection and work orders and making sure all the title's clear, and then most importantly, make sure it get to escrow on time so the seller basically will get their check at the end of the day. And basically at the end of the day, that's why hiring an agent will get you more money with less headache and it save you time. Well, the process of buying a home is very simple. There's about probably 7 or 8 steps in that. So number one, if I was meeting with a buyer, step one is the initial meeting. And that's when I sit down with a buyer, or my team does, and we determine what the buyer's needs and want is. And then after that, then step two is loan qualification. That's where, we sit down, figure out what they qualify for. And then that's typically when I actually refer them over to one of my mortgage person to actually get them pre-approved, pre-qualified before we actually go out there and do step three, which is to find them the perfect house. Now, once we find the perfect house, then we will write the offer up and then we will negotiate it with the seller and the agent that represents the seller and try to get the deal that the best fit my buyer. Once the deal is signed around, we open escrow, the earnest money gets deposited in escrow, and then from that point on, that's when me or my team, we will hire an inspector company to come out there to inspect the property. That's when we will read like the disclosure form about the property, make sure that the buyer knows everything's going on with the house. That's when we order the appraisal on the property. And usually during that time is when the loan is getting processed from the bank, and usually it takes about 30 days to get the final pre-approval. And once the final pre-approval is done, then basically we'll order home insurance for the property, and then we'll head to the last step, which is the escrow. And that's when basically they go in, the buyer go in, sign the paperwork, and then the house get recorded, and then the buyer get the key within 24 to 48 hours after they sign. Well, the process of selling a home is a little bit different. So the first step on selling a home, the process is that, again, is the initial meeting. And inside the meeting, this is where myself or my team will meet with the seller and find out why they're selling, how soon they want to sell, where they're moving to, and what's important to them about moving, about this process of moving. Inside that meeting also, basically, I pretty much will recommend what they should do to their home and what they should not do to the home to basically get the house ready for sale. And a lot of time, I also will bring in a staging company to actually help stage this property. And then on that first meeting, I also will determine a list price for the property so we can get ready to market the home. The second step after we do all that is then we market the property. That's when myself and my team will go out there and market the property and basically go out there and find a buyer for the property. Now, once we find a buyer for the property, the offer comes in. Then usually my wife, Cammie, she does all the negotiating on the property. She will take a look at the offer, review it, and then she will call the seller and negotiate all the offer with the seller, work through all the different details and the escrows and the title and all that kind of stuff and the inspection. Once the deal is all signed around, then we open escrow, and then the buyer will deposit the earnest money in escrow. And then basically during that time, the seller, we wait until the buyer do their inspection, till they basically get their appraisal out, and then at the end they get their final approval from the bank. And then that's when we basically head towards closing. And at closing, we basically wait for the title to switch, get recorded, the buyer get their keys, they move in, and the seller get their check. And basically, that's the whole process. Well, it costs the buyer nothing to actually use a buyer agent, like my buyer agent or any of my person on my own team. And here it's interesting. The buyer agent, right? We will actually do all the work for the buyer, and they don't cost the buyer nothing. For example, we'll do stuff like we meet with the buyer, find out what they want, find out what their need is, right? Go find them this dream home, negotiate all the deal, do all the inspection with them, make sure that all the title's clear so they basically don't buy a home that has any liens on it. They do all that for free for the buyer, and it's almost crazy for the buyer not to even use a realtor if they're buying a house. After almost 20 years in this business, I have finally realized there's actually, in my opinion, two ways how you know if you're going to get the right agent. The first is this. Well, I realized that overall there's two type of agent in this industry. I call them passive agent and active agent. For example, like my team and I, we are considered an active agent team, meaning when the seller signed the contract with us, we will spend all of our time actively marketing their home and to the other active agent in town. The second way how you know if you got the right agent in that is basically on the number of transactions that the agent actually do per year and the total number of transactions they have done in their career. So, a lot of people don't realize that, the average agent in Seattle, they sell about 4 or 5 homes a year. And our team, we have consistently sold over 100 homes per year, and we have sold over 1,200 transactions in our whole career. And what's interesting is this: a lot of people would think, a lot of people say that, I've been in business for 20 years. It's not even how long you've been in the business that really tell you how experienced you are, but it's how many times you've been in the transaction, how many times you have made mistake, how many times you have negotiated deals. And to me, that's really where the experience lies, in the transaction versus the year of the business. So bottom line is this: if you're a seller, you want someone who's going to be working actively and aggressively to get your home sold, and someone who has lots of experience on getting the house sale. Because if you're going to pay 6%, which is normal across the board, you're going to want someone who have lots of experience and have done a lot of transaction. And that's how you know if you get the right agent on that.